Greetings. Greetings from One Love Global and Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation of Metro Lansing. Accountability is an act of love. It's what we demonstrate when we care about people. I'm so excited to share with you a process that we've been in, building with our community members because our community needs and deserves to heal. The Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Racial Equity Accountability process is an invitation. It's an invitation for those who care about community to do the work of inner transformation and accountability so that the community can heal together. Today, we are inviting our mayoral candidates, Kathy Dunbar and Andy Shore, into our first racial equity accountability process that's rooted in healing and where the community defines what justice looks like. What does justice that heals look like? That's a question that the community has been pondering over the past year. And one of the conclusions that we drew is that it is vitally important for the community to name what harm feels like, what the violence of racism feels like, and what transformation looks like so that healing can happen. I'm so excited to be here with my colleagues and my family from One Love Global, who have been deeply committed to learning what it means to actually hold racial healing circles. What does it mean to be vulnerable when we've actually caused harm? And the truth is that every one of us has caused harm. So one of the questions that we asked ourselves is, when we have caused harm, how do we want to be invited into accountability? Because the fact is that you can't force anyone to be accountable. We can't make anyone take responsibility for their actions. But what we can do is extend an invitation and provide support for institutions, organizations, and individuals to say, yes, I care about my community and I am committed to being a part of this healing process. I'd like to invite my friend, my beloved sister, Lillian, to share more about what it is. What is a racial healing circle, and what has your experience been as a circle keeper?
Well, thank you, Angela. It's a pleasure to be here. I came to TRHT 3 years ago with the hope of eradicating racism. And to do that, I learned it's a building relationships process within our community, one person at a time, because it's through individuals that we learn that our neighbors are more alike than they are different. I've been a healing circle practitioner, which we now refer to ourselves as circle keepers. And during that time, I've learned the healing circle is a place where people can feel safe, feel valued, and feel a sense of belonging. It's not a threatening space, and you will not be threatened by other people. Healing circles suspend real and perceived hierarchies, and it meets the basic human need for connection while supporting focus and attention away from distractions. Healing circles make a story an action, and it's a deep listening that generates powerful changes in perception. And these help us break down our biases. As circle keepers, we decided that more effective way to experience racial healing circles were to arrange participants into targeted affinity groups, such as we have a teacher cohort and we have a nursing cohort, and a future cohort will include students in youth groups. I've gained a valuable toolbox for having difficult conversations with people who think differently than me. And the Healing Circle first has given me and taught me how to listen intentionally. I've learned to identify issues of white supremacy that discounts others' lives, and I've learned ways to communicate with others and join us in interconnectedness and appreciation for all of humanity. So please join us in the future for our Healing Circle cohorts and just to learn more about what we do at TRHT Metro Lansing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. And I just want to say, as a member of TRHT Metro Lansing and a part of the One Love Global family, Lansing, it is time for us to heal. We have experienced trauma, we've experienced all kinds of disappointments, and unfortunately, we are continuing to experience those conditions that we've repeatedly named and said that these things harm us, including the violence that we are currently experiencing, that our youth are currently experiencing in our community. And so as a part of the clergy, many of you all know me as Pastor Holland, as a part of the clergy, we also want to extend the invitation to the clergy, the Alliance of Lansing Pastors, to come into this racial equity and accountability process. Your leadership, your presence is absolutely important to this process. And so we want to extend that invitation just as Angela extended it to Mayor Andy Shore and mayoral candidate Kathy Dunbar. We extend this invitation. It is an act of love so that our community can actually experience what peace and what prosperity really feels like in abundance. And so we extend this invitation for our community to heal, and we call in our leaders. Shani, can you tell us more about, from your lens, how, how healing is so needed in our community?
Certainly. Thank you so much for introducing me, Mordecai. I appreciate it. And you're right, as a clinical therapist, I deal with and have conversations with people about their emotional wellness on a daily basis. Out the gate, racial justice is the systemic and fair treatment of people of all races that result in equitable opportunities and outcomes for everyone. And the reality is that this kind of system of inequity that we are experiencing right now is deeply embedded in our history, culture, and our identity. And it is showing up in our mental health and our children, and it's showing up in our community. And for far too long, our community has been dealing with racial and social injustices that's impacting their mental health and the wellness of our community and within our community. So having healing conversations that need to happen, that must happen at the micro and macro levels, starts with our goal. And this is one of our goals. And we're wanting to promote equal opportunities for community members, our youth included. We want to put knowledge into action. We want to start a conversation. So this invitation that's being extended is extremely important. And I am looking forward to continuing this conversation. And ideally, when this happens, we are working on describing the nature and context of violence. We want to address what's happening with the loss of life that has impacted our community in such a way that we are all beginning to have the side effects of trauma and generational trauma, and the remembering of being harmed. And so we have to work on identifying strategies that develop in this kind of culturally centered and anti-oppressive space with leadership, with agencies and with systems that are going to be able to come up with solutions that focus on this healing that needs to happen. Ideally, as a clinician, I work with clients and agencies to create strategies that promote that emotional liberation and wellness among the people of our communities across the spectrum of diverse groups, and including, faith-based institutions and people with different racial and ethnic backgrounds. So we really need to be honest about how we got here and have these really difficult conversations about entering into these new and brave spaces to talk about the importance of racial equity and accountability. Because what is happening in our community now is happening to real people, and these are real life situations, and it cannot go undealt with or unheard any longer. And the way that we deal with it requires this mutual respect that promotes understanding of the intersections of racism and violence, mental health, and social justice. And so developing this critical awareness about how important healing is, about how important equity is it's not only to promote awareness, it's here to promote real solutions. Our children are dying, and enough is enough. So let's have the conversation. Please continue to come and let's talk about what's happening in our community and how we're dealing with it, and the symptoms of violence, and the symptoms, the side effects actually are violence and depression and anxiety and suicidal behaviors, and post, pre, and present traumatic stress responses for people who are living in our community who are just surviving and they're just not able to thrive. That's problematic. And so what I'm seeing in our community is this feelings of fear, and anxiousness and loss of interest, and the feeling down and feeling bad about yourself and not knowing what direction to go in. These are symptoms that can be resolved with community help and community engagement. So having these conversations, I think, are the most important piece of it. So please, as we are having this and we are extending this invitation, we want to continue the conversation of what the stress is doing and how it's impacting not only the youth in our community, but the community leaders, the agencies and organizations that are trying to mitigate the loss that's happening around health and wellness. And also as a clinician, just the healing aspect of dealing with feelings of invisibility. And so our ask is to be transparent about the impact this is having on our community, so that we will no longer have to deal with the consequences of a society that does not protect nor care about human life. Thank you.
We thank you for joining us for this special invitation, which will be published in its entirety so that you can read the invitation that has been extended to our mayoral candidates, as well as to the Alliance of Lansing Pastors, because we need you, the community, to be a part of this process so that we can heal together. We look forward to communicating more over the next couple of months in preparation for beginning this racial equity accountability process in January for the celebration of the National Day of Racial Healing. We've invited the mayoral candidates to respond to our invitation along with the Alliance of Lansing Pastors by October 30th. We will report back to you, the community, because this entire process will be transparent. It is important that we document and that we are very transparent from the beginning to the end. So you will know what the answer was from everyone who was invited, and you will know what the next steps in the process are. Thank you very much.